This is Hunt Nebraska, the official podcast for insight into Nebraska's hunting and shooting sports community. Be sure to give us a follow on Facebook, our space for sharing stories, information, tips, and techniques. Now, Hunt Nebraska.
Oh, it's refreshing to be back here in the Hunt Nebraska cabin. We are at nearly full force once again. Thanks for joining us on whatever listening platform you're joining us on, or maybe you're fortunate enough to be watching us on YouTube. Make sure you give us a subscribe, give us a like on Facebook, all that fun stuff to help us out in a lot of different ways. But first and foremost, help yourself out to know when the newest episode drops. Again, real quick, around the horn here, we've got our good buddy Hunter from the National Wild Turkey Federation. We've got Mr. Jeff Rawlinson, Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. We've got Jackson Ellis from our Hunter Education Division here within the Nebraska Game and Parks, and just me, Hershey. Now, we're going to start a game sensation. We hope this really picks up steam. If you guys will look in front of you, got an orange piece of paper, two-sided, it should be two-sided anyway, because we're gonna have a little fun. I've got 4 different topics. I might add a 5th if we've got time for it. That we should discuss. But what's more fun, especially for those listening, Jeff, is to have a little dissension. We can't all agree on the same thing.
I'm opposed to everything, so yeah, I just put mine right out right here.
That comes with age.
You got that right.
So we're gonna play a little game, folks. And for those listening, we'll make sure that we tell you which they're going to choose, because on this piece of paper in front of them is either opposed or in favor. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to have you guys take a stab. You're going to choose one of those 2 options. You're either in favor or opposed, and then I'm going to read about the topic.
Oh.
All right?
Oh.
So we've got 4 of them. You cannot choose the same option. You can't choose in favor of more than 2 times in a row. You can't choose opposed more than 2 times in a row.
This just got complicated.
All right? And you gotta argue that point. Whatever you choose before you know the topic. Well, you get to pick which one, and then I'll tell you the topic, and then we'll read through little things, and then you'll have to argue on that. So, folks, I do have to toss this out. They don't know the topics. They don't know whether they're going to be in favor or opposed of the topics they don't know about yet. So this may or may not be their actual position on this. But we're going to argue. This is going to be kind of fun. I don't remember what this is called, but this is actually a great discussion and debate.
There'll be some critical thinking.
I was going to say, yeah, it seems
We haven't
like
had the debate, and he's already called it great. This is going to be great.
It's going to be fun.
I think he's referring to the idea more than the debate so far.
So, gentlemen, what you're going to do is, as we approach this first topic, you got to choose between. You've only got 2 choices. You got a 50-50 chance here. Make sure Jackson can't see my computer screen here. All right.
Put my blinders on.
And again, you can't choose the same option more than 2 times in a row just to make it fun. And so you get to choose one of those. You're going to hold that up, and then we'll kind of go around the horn so that everybody that's listening can tell who's in favor of or opposed, and then we'll read the topic, and then we'll get into it. Then you got to defend your position. All right. So choose. We're going to go with topic number 1 right here. We're going to start right at the top. Choose whether you're in favor or opposed.
Well, before we hear the topic?
Yeah, that's the fun part.
All right, so we've got Hunter, what are you doing?
Opposed.
Opposed. Jeff?
Opposed.
Oh, boy. Jackson?
I'm in favor.
In favor. All right, the topic is social media has helped recreational hunting in positive ways.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of an interesting one. We all read a recent article by Matt somebody in regards to how social media has impacted hunting. And there's a lot of talk about this. That might be a sword that cuts both ways. So, Jeff, you're already opposed.
I'm opposed.
So why don't you agree with that
I think
statement?
we should define what social media is so I know what I'm talking about. But after that...
I'll leave that to the millennials.
I'll tell you right now. Social media has allowed every quote-unquote expert a voice. And while everybody having a voice is good, not everybody has facts, details, or the information they need, yet they might have a pretty big following. They're influencers. And I think there's a responsibility for influencers to go to the sources to get information if they're going to continue to be influencers. And when they don't do that, I think that causes misinformation, problems, misleads people down a path that maybe doesn't help conservation. So, yeah.
Well, doesn't the term influencer kind of denote that they probably have some knowledge in the area?
Well, you'd think. They're supposed to. And some do. Some do an incredible job. But, I think social media, not only that, it's also painted hunting in a different picture. No one goes out there and puts it out on social media. Here's us having a picnic out there on our favorite pheasant hunt. It's always got to be harvest pictures, and it's got to be dead animals and whatnot. Now, I'm a dead animal guy. I like to go out and I like to harvest animals, and that's what I do. But not everybody needs to see just that when it comes to hunting. And on social media, I think that kind of dominates, and it paints a different picture than what hunting really is about.
All right. Counterpoint, Jackson, since you're obviously in favor of it, how has social media helped recreational hunting in positive ways?
So Jeff's at the high level influencer and kind of the big topic there. I think it on the ground floor with just your average everyday people, I think it's been a good thing. I see a lot of people sharing their harvests. And, here we've got a couple of pages in Nebraska. There's the bragging board. There's Nebraska Through the Lens, and there's a lot of discussion about those. Sometimes it's negative, but a lot of times it is positive, and it turns positive. And there's a lot of people that portray hunting in the right way, that speak up in the comments when they do turn negative. So, for example, our otter season closed the other day, right? Mm-hmm. One of the local papers in central Nebraska ran a story on that in their on their social media, and a couple of the comments, just their first comments were very negative about otter harvest in general, and then the comments underneath them were very, very positive. And a lot of people, they really took the time to break down. The negative comments were very simplistic, and then they broke down the nuances. And I think if people took the time to read them, which in all honesty, I advise people not to read the comments for the most part, but but it surprised me. I'll say that. And I think there is a lot of knowledge out there that can be shared through social media. There is some, you do get that misinformation from time to time, but I think when you can have that dialogue, the best argued points typically come to light.
Ooh, all right. So far, folks, if you're keeping score at home or in your car, Jeff's got 2 points, Jackson's got 3. But we've got another post.
Hey, he said it. Yep, he's the scoreboard.
It's just random, and you guys are in charge. By the way, I forgot to mention, you guys
you don't think about it.
are in charge of keeping track of what scores I give you. So it's because we'll add them up
5
at the
to
end,
3,
something like
5 to 3.
that. Yeah. But I got to say that you think about it. What was one of the big influencers before social media really took off, and probably about that time that really had an impact on waterfowl hunting? Duck Dynasty, because it was getting that message out to non-hunters, and okay, these guys I can relate to. It's not just about hunting, this and that. Now, I don't know if you'll see that again via the television quite like it is, unless it's YouTube or something online and another avenue. So they do have an impact. But I'll point out, Jeff 2, Jackson 3, but we've got another one opposed. So, all right, you can score some points for yourself and for your side right now. Hunter, take it away.
My issue with, hunters posting on social media is you're only seeing a very slight snippet of that whole experience and what I really see as hunting's all about. And I don't think you can get that from a photo. I don't think you can get that from a photo and a lengthy explanation on what that photo means to you. I think, a lot of the people that are seeing these, grip and grins or a photo of a harvest of your successful hunt aren't seeing all the hard work, all the time you put into, scouting and doing your due diligence to make sure you took a clean and ethical shot, and everything that goes into it. And I think that portrays, a non-hunter seeing that photo portrays, oh, this is what that person thinks hunting's all about. I mean, that's the end result for a hunter. I mean, ideally, the end result is you eating that meat too. But, a non-hunter who doesn't know anything about it, seeing that, and it must be so easy to go and kill a deer, so easy to go kill an elk, and why should we allow that? So I think there's an argument against it.
Yeah.
Just from the fact that, we want to hunt into the future, and if people are non-hunters are seeing that, on social media, how can we as hunters better portray hunting to make sure that we can continue to do it in the future? Because it's not going to affect them; it's going to affect us.
Excellent points.
Good. I think we just got 4 or 5 there. But I'll also add this. That reminds me of a statement that I'd heard years ago, that I don't hunt to kill an animal. I kill an animal to have hunted. And I think that there is, in social media, it takes us right to the end point, and it's not giving us the vast array of what the hunt was about. Why did I hunt? I didn't hunt just to kill an animal. There was a lot of things that came into play for me to be out there hunting, but the end result, to have fully hunted, was that I harvested that animal. And I think social media, for those who don't know anything about hunting, and those maybe that should, it portrays just the start and the end, and it doesn't have the journey. And the journey is what it's all about.
Wow.
Boom.
I'll give you there are a lot of those.
How many points was that, by the way?
One for the quote. I'll give him one for the quote.
One for the quote.
One for the quote.
-2 for out of order. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Well, you didn't say anything about those rules, so I don't think so.
He's making up the rules as we go.
Yeah,
That's
well,
how
we're
he.
going to start making up a few of our own
Just
here.
make that assumption. Just make that assumption.
There are a lot of grip and grins. We see that a lot. And
Yep,
when
just in there.
when you're outside of social media, let's step outside. That's when you're. I'll take the Big Game Expo. We were at that over the weekend. There were a couple people. I'm sitting there talking, and we're talking about our hunts from the year. What pictures do you show? Mm-hmm. You show the grip and grins.
Yep.
You show the pile pictures. You show.
Yep.
There are pages and photographers that I follow that are getting a lot more popular where it isn't. You won't see a grip and grin on their page. It's high quality photos of what all it entails.
And I'm not opposed to the grip and grin, but tell the story.
Me neither.
Tell the story.
I'm looking at this from
gotten away
outside.
the story,
From an outside looking in, the grip and grins aren't always the best. That being said,
To people who understand hunting, I think a grip and grin's not going to bother them. But it's the people who don't understand hunting, and that's the audience that's probably going to have the biggest impact on our ability to hunt moving forward. So we just have to be careful.
yep, nope, totally agree.
And that's one thing. I think this is one we do have to grapple with as a group, because it's not going away, and we know the answer isn't avoid it completely, because I don't think we can. Because then, if you want to say us them, the other side gets to tell the entire story, and if we're not there for some of it, then shame on us, because it's available. So
I'll give you a point for that.
good. I'm not getting points.
Yeah,
I'm not
you
getting
got one
points.
for
She's
that.
on the board.
But
I gotta
I'm
say-
opposed to the next subject too. By the way,
I'd say 4 for Hunter. He did an awesome job. So 4, 3. What did we say? 3 for Jeff.
Whoa,
Okay,
whoa.
all right. Moving on. We've got to go. So we're going to move on to topic number 3, actually. And so again, you get to choose. You can choose something different. You can't use the same choice more than twice in a row. All right. So here we go. We're going to go backwards. Jackson, since you kind of went solo on that one, you are now
Opposed.
to this next topic that we haven't yet brought up. So we got one opposed. Jeff?
I'm opposed.
Also opposed.
Yep.
I am in favor.
All right. And here is the topic, folks. The UK ban on African trophies will have a negative impact for wildlife.
A negative.
A negative impact for wildlife.
So I'm opposed.
And so
to
you're
the-
opposed. You and Jackson are opposed.
We think it'll have a positive.
You'll
impact.
say the ban will have a positive impact, and
I would like to
Hunter,
change
you chose
my
correctly.
vote.
No, too late. This is coming
Gotta
from
play the game.
Okay. All right.
Again-
all right.
Again, like I said, this is we're only almost back to full force, because actually our good friend and coworker Kayla brought this up, and what we're talking about is the vote that will take place to ban trophy hunting imports in the United Kingdom. They're going to ban hunting trophies from thousands of species, including lions, leopards, rhinos, elephants, and polar bears. And they're going to look at this as a way to stop trophy hunting to some extent, and to, for some, the perceived impact or perception that trophy hunters are going from the UK to Africa, killing big trophies, bringing them back, and they want to see that kind of come to an end. Now, there's another group out there, an African conservation group, and several of them that are saying that this might have a huge impact on the economy there, their conservation system, which relies on that funding from those hunters coming from out of country, in particular in this case, obviously the UK, that they use then to support the conservation of those species there. So we got to take a quick pause. I see someone's here to pick up a trailer. Can you hit the pause button there?
I just formulated my argument.
All right, so we've got two
Opposed, one in favor.
One in favor of the UK ban on trophy hunting imports, risking the undermining the conservation of rhinos, elephants, and other endangered wildlife. You can tell which site that came from. So Jackson, you had to go second fiddle last time, so you get first crack at this one.
Let me make sure I understand what I'm arguing here. So
nope, sorry.
So,
You don't get a no.
So I'm opposed to the idea of the ban, or I'm opposed to the, because you read it.
You're opposed to the ban having a positive impact on wildlife in Africa.
No.
That's what it is.
Now I'm more confused than ever.
You're not opposed to the ban.
Right.
I think you said you're
Opposed to the idea.
The ban.
You're opposed to the idea that it's going to have a negative impact on wildlife.
Okay.
Or negative impact. Darn it.
So you think it's going to have a positive impact.
You think it'll have a positive impact.
I see.
So I think it's a good thing.
I think I think this will have a great impact on the trophy hunting in Africa. I'm having a problem. I'm having a hard time here. I would not have been a very good debate student if it doesn't line up with. Okay, let me.
I can argue water's wet, so don't get me started.
We're aware.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, I can kind of see how this would deter people. They want to bring back their trophies. You know, they go spend this money in Africa and they want to bring back those trophies. So it may deter people because, you know, pictures are one thing, but everybody wants that head on the wall. So I think that it will deter trophy hunting in Africa.
All right, and trophy hunting's kind of gotten a black eye. It's really got a negative connotation nowadays, does it not? I mean, not just in the UK or Africa, but even here in the United States. Yeah. You say trophy hunting to most non-hunters, and face kind of like, ooh.
It's a very, very nuanced discussion, which is probably a podcast we should have at some time.
When people don't have the facts, discussions can go awry.
Oh, that's right. And we're not presenting all the facts, folks. By no means are we doing that at all. So, all right, that's your argument?
That's my argument.
It's going to have a positive. Okay. You're the lone voice of reason here.
So I think there's, first we need to consider that, a lot of African countries, the United States and the UK all have very different funding sources for how they fund conservation. In the United States, we do that through hunting licenses and excise taxes on firearms. And in a lot of these African countries, they do that. They fund their conservation efforts, whether that be wildlife management, whether that be law enforcement to prohibit poaching, which can be really prevalent for some of those desired trophy animals within those countries. That's funding a lot of the time is coming from these trophy hunters coming over from different countries. And, I think if the UK places a ban on importing those animals after a harvest in another country, that's going to deter a lot of those hunters from going there because, that's for those hunters, that's what part of it's about. And I think at the end of the day, what these conservation organizations are arguing is that, we're going to lose money on tourism. We're going to lose money on people paying these big prices to go on these hunts. Which they're managing. It's just their different style of managing their populations there. And they're not doing it to extirpate the species. They're doing it to fund wildlife management. It's just a different style. And I think if the UK does this, it could set precedent for a lot of other countries to start doing it. So I think it could have some bad implications on the future of those species and how those countries can stop poachers from killing them if trophy hunters aren't going to come in and fund that. So.
Okay, all right. Jeff, we'll give you the final word because
thank you. I was going to take it regardless, but and while I agree with everything he just said, by the way, personally, I will say this.
No, that's not allowed.
That's not allowed.
That's -3 right there. You're losing points here. All right, we're moving on to the next topic.
Well, I can agree with what he said. bottom line is this, I'm opposed, and I'll tell you why. First off, I'm not going to go to the trophy hunting argument because, there's nothing wrong with trophy hunting, in my opinion. That trophy hunting, unless you just don't know what trophy hunting is, and that's on me because I haven't educated you enough to know what trophy hunting is. But if you know what trophy hunting really is, there's nothing wrong with trophy hunting. That's a stage in the hunter's life, and that's something that a lot of hunters do, and it funds a lot of conservation, and they're doing it in an ethical way, following all our rules and guidelines. And so in fact, I'd argue some of the better hunters are trophy hunters that spend a lot of time in the field understanding their animals and the biology and whatnot, and putting a ton of time and effort into it. But I will say this: I'm not totally sold on the model of conservation in Africa, and here's why. I think that this ban will be positive because I think that model of conservation in Africa has put a really high value on the price of wild game in Africa. Now, we went a different model here in the United States. We tried to devalue wildlife with our model to some degree. Everybody owns the wildlife here in the United States, and everybody has a chance to hunt it, and everybody has reasons why they do hunt it. In fact, the bulk of our hunters here in the United States are us. We hunt our wildlife, and I think that anybody, the common man, common woman, can hunt wildlife here in Nebraska. The model that Africa has moved toward is one where that's not the case. In fact, a lot of the locals aren't hunting at all because they can't afford to, because the price of that game animal is just too expensive. They can't afford to go out and harvest that animal. They've got to sell that hunt for somebody else, and it really is devastating to a market like theirs when things like this start to happen. So get it over with, move on, and let the people of the country start taking over their hunting, their management themselves, and having more of a stake in their hunting, more of an opportunity for the common person in Africa to be able to hunt, and devalue wildlife a little bit in terms of the monetary, and have more of a intrinsic value for the people who live there, so that they're doing hunting, they're doing the management, they're doing the control, and they're not having to worry about selling off a hunt to pay the bills. I think that would help their model extremely well, and I think that it would help hunting and conservation be more sustainable in Africa over the long period.
All right, and again, Jeff was arguing that there'd be negative impacts because of the ban. I don't know that he got there. That was pretty impressive, though.
It wasn't
You can't judge that. No, I got there.
That's
you
what I'm here
must not
for.
understand your own question.
That's my job.
Yeah, I got there all right.
Yeah,
I went
you got
beyond.
there.
Trust me. Yeah, 5 points. I'm just
right.
going to go ahead and say it.
I got to say, I got to give you a couple points, Jackson, because you tried. It was tough. It was tough.
That's a tough
It
one.
was tough.
That's a tough
and we'll give you 3 again, Hunter, because you had some excellent points. And Jeff, I guess we'll give you 2 because you rambled. There is some points there.
This is so rigged.
Well, dang straight. No one said this was a fair game.
You get points based on the chair you're
That
sitting
was
in.
the better answer. I'm going to tell you right. If you don't know that, you shouldn't be hosting.
I'm not sure it'll work. But, all right. So we've got to kind of go with we're just going to do 3 because we're running out of time. Apologize. We had to help get some folks shooting archery. And so we had to take a pause there. So we're going to do a 3rd. So now you've got to choose. Again, we've got one more topic. You got to choose whether you're opposed or you're in favor. Now, a reminder, Jeff, that if you've used the same one twice, you've got to go. It's already chosen.
So he's going to choose the topic now that he knows I have to be in favor. There's just no love in this man's heart. No love at all.
And so, Jeff, you're in favor of whatever statement
By
comes
decree.
out. All
By
right.
decree, yes.
Jackson?
I'll be opposed.
And
I'll also be opposed.
wow. This is pretty good.
Wow.
This could be a fun one. This is one, Jeff, that you actually brought to our attention.
Did you guys talk about this before?
No,
No, but this is a fun one. This is a fun one because
it
you
better
brought
be.
us this to our attention probably about 3 weeks ago now. So
Could have used something I said against me.
We're using your article against you.
I don't remember what I said.
And the statement is the Boone and Crockett Club holds little relevancy for the average hunter. The Boone and Crockett Club holds little relevancy for the average hunter.
Okay.
All right. Now, you got to go second here because we usually have gone first, and both of you have kind of started things out. But, Hunter, you'll get the chance at this. What I'm talking about here is something that Jeff brought to our attention. In December 1st, there was an update to the Boone and Crockett's Big Game Records eligibility statement. It had to do with fair chase. The use of sites with built-in electronic range-finding capabilities and technology that delivers real-time location data, including photos, to target or guide a hunter to any animal are now considered violations of the club's revered code of ethical conduct. Hunters who enter animals for consideration in the Boone and Crockett Records of North America Big Game must sign an affidavit swearing that they have not relied on these technologies, just as they testify that they have not violated other tenets of fair chase. Now, for your reminder, those ethics of fair chase include having another person on the other end of a two-way radio or cell phone to help locate or guide a hunter is not fair chase. Big game animals cannot be legally hunted at night in any state or province. That's actually mostly regulation there. Knowing the range to a target is a critical piece of information for the ethical harvest of big game. Rangefinders are valuable, acceptable tool. Rifle scopes the same. Combining the two into one device, aka smart scopes, according to this article, is a step too far. Using drones to take pictures or videos or transmitting this information live, and this information being the location of game, for scouting or taking of those animals is unfair. Thermal imaging equipment is helpful in recovering wounded or lost game but cannot be used in the take. Trail cameras can be a helpful tool in game management, selective harvest. The use of these technologies to deliver real-time location data, including photos, to target or guide, that's kind of what we talked about before, is a key concept, and it's against their policies as well. And there's a couple other things in there. So let's jump into it. Hunter, you got first crack. You are opposed to the idea or the statement that the Boone and Crockett Club is no longer relevant to the average hunter.
You know, I think going back and looking at the original intent of the Boone and Crockett Club, which is to track and use their system as a measurement tool for the health of deer populations and genetic pass down of big animals and big bucks. So I think them being there from the start and kind of, ethics beyond regulation, and I tell my hunter education students this when I'm teaching, it's up to you. But I think hunters as a whole, we look to these organizations and like the Boone and Crockett Club and other big influencers on what is fair, what is ethical. And I think that kind of dictates, what the majority of hunters think is fair chase, and kind of dictates how some of these laws and regulations come along. So I think Boone and Crockett is, very relevant in this. And I think that, setting their standards and continuing to do that will continue to guide hunters down the road in making ethical decisions.
All right. And to add to that, I'm glad you brought that up because I have it on my computer screen here. The Boone and Crockett Club mission. It is the mission of the Boone and Crockett Club to promote the conservation and management of wildlife, especially big game, and its habitat, to preserve and encourage hunting and to maintain the highest ethical standards of fair chase and sportsmanship in North America. So that is their mission. All right, so we got one for Jeff.
I've got friends in the Boone and Crockett Club, so the organization, so this is going to hurt. But I have to argue in favor. I'm going to argue in favor, and I can say that it isn't relevant to the average sports person. The average sports person is dealing with life, families, not enough time, not enough places to hunt. What's Boone and Crockett doing for those things? It's dealing with a lot more than just the score of the animal. The average person never scores an animal. I guarantee you probably couldn't tell me what percentage of hunters have ever had their animal scored. Why? Because it's not relevant to them. It's either a nice buck or it's something that they pass on, or it's a doe. So I don't think to the average hunter it is relevant. It's relevant to an elite group of hunters. It's relevant to a few lucky hunters. All of a sudden you go out and shoot a 200-point buck, and it became relevant real fast overnight, but you never have had an animal measured before. And so I would say that its relevance is high, but not high to the average hunter. The ethics piece of that, there's a sound reason to have a body like that governing ethics, but you can't govern ethics. Ethics is something you can't mandate or govern. That's something that has to be part of your society. That's not something that we can govern as hunters or mandate as rules. That has to be something that's part of your society. And if our society has a problem with ethics in hunting, then that's a societal issue. We need to change that. But I don't think that one organization can have that impact. But no, average person, average hunter, probably knows very little about them, probably has never used them. So I can't argue that they're that relevant to the average person if they don't utilize them.
All right. Fair points. Jackson?
So I'm going to argue that they, while directly whether they're directly relevant is something that you could argue a lot of.
He said.
I'm stepping back and going that the Boone and Crockett Club is known a lot for the scoring. That's the thing. The big deer and the trophy animals. But if you go back to their mission statement, what's the first part is conservation. So if you go back to where it was founded, the original intent of the group, and really what they do kind of behind the trophy scenes, I think has a lot more relevancy to the average hunter in that they had a giant hand in that conservation in the early 1900s that brought about the species that we're hunting today. So the average hunter may not, if the animals aren't here to hunt, you're not having hunters. And so if we step back and really look at the original intent of the group, it is indirectly relevant to the average sportsman, and the game is out there for them.
Now, the question was directly relevant to the average hunter, and you just proved that it's not. You just proved that it's in the background. Well, that doesn't count. I mean, you could say, look at this. You could say Elephants Unlimited has their first statement is conservation. Is that relevant to the average hunter? No, Elephants Unlimited is not relevant to the average hunter either. So I don't know where you're going with that. I really don't, Jackson.
And we'll have to review the tape. I'm not sure I said directly.
I don't think he said directly.
Good.
I don't know if he said. Look at. Did he say directly?
We'll let the audience make
it's not
the
typed in
decision
there. I'll leave it at that.
Roll the tape. Roll the tape.
No, it's not typed in there. But I do think it's one of those things, and this one of all the ones we've hit on, this would be my favorite one to discuss because I agree. I agree with what all you guys said. It's one of those things that we've got regulations that everyone has to follow, right? That's the idea behind them anyway. The fair chase is kind of this gray area out there, and technology is always moving. And it's not the state wildlife agencies necessarily to mandate that type of stuff. But the same token, I think a lot of folks don't even know that Boone and Crockett is a club beyond the record book. And then there's some biologists that, at least inside of me, that say, they're only getting half the picture. All right. Because they decide what ones they will measure and enter into that book for their records for keeping track of the North American games and wildlife to show how healthy it is. And there's a bunch that they won't. And there's a whole, other gender that they don't know, which is part of the equation. But anyway,
I got to represent this side of the coin. I'll say this. There's a big difference between do they impact hunters and are they relevant?
Yep.
Okay.
And I think that's a big difference.
That's fair. Yep.
Don't give in that easily.
No, I think
I picked wrong each and every time
because if the Boone and Crockett Club takes a stance on whether something's ethical or not, and then other clubs and other states pick that up and they make that into regulation, that's directly relevant to the hunter. And
nicely done.
You need to be able to say from a personal standpoint whether you agree with something or not, and
No, I disagree.
That's pretty good because the one making headlines is when Boone and Crockett does it. If anyone's going to make headlines nationally or even within your state, the Sportsman's Club down by the river, they make a change. Nobody knows. So, all right, we're going to have to wrap it up there. This was kind of fun. I love these discussions. It's fun to kind of get into some of these areas and see them from both sides. So I appreciate you guys playing along with us, and I appreciate you out there listening. You're probably already arguing with yourself and with us on these different points. We'll have to try this again one time. Again, if you've got some great things you want to share with us as far as arguments, type them down in the comments section. We'll take a peek at them or jump them online there at the Facebook page, Hunt Nebraska, because you got to give that a like anyway to be part of this wonderful thing that we have going here in the state of Nebraska. Until next time.
Hunt Nebraska, brought to you by your Nebraska Game and Parks Commission.